Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. I am Ashfaq and in today's video we will create one project on the Azure DevOps using Azure repos and Azure pipelines. In this project, Azure pipelines will deploy the resources on the Azure Kubernetes services cluster. Let's get started. On the Azure DevOps portal, this is my organization and in this organization I have created this project. If I go to project setting, service connection, so this is my service connection. This service connection gives connectivity between Azure DevOps and Azure portal. You can refer to this video on how to create the free trial or pay as you go subscription on the Azure DevOps, how to create the organization on the Azure DevOps portal, and how to create the service connection for your project between Azure DevOps and the Azure portal. The link of this video is available in the description. Next task is to create the Azure Container Registry and the Azure Kubernetes Services cluster. I will go to Azure portal. I will go to create a resource. I will search here container registry. I will select this container registry, create resource group. I want to create new. MyLab-RG. Registry name I will give MyLab ACR 13. SKU standard. Next, 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 create. Okay, so Azure Container Registry has been created. I will go to home. I will go to Kubernetes services. Create a Kubernetes cluster. I will select my resource group. Cluster preset configuration is standard. Kubernetes cluster name, I will give the cluster name MyLab-AKS. Availability zone, I will untick all to save the cost. AKS pricing tier, I will select free. Scale method manual, and I want 2 node. Next, 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 next. I will select my container registry in the drop down. I will untick the container log to save the cost. I do not want the alert. Review. Create. AKS cluster also created, our Azure pipeline will actually push the image to the Azure Container Registry, and then uh, our Azure pipeline will deploy the pods on the AKS cluster using that image. On the Azure portal, I will go to my project. I will go to repos, import repository, and I will copy my GitHub project, and I will provide the GitHub project link here. Import. Okay, import completed. I will now go to pipelines, create pipeline, Azure repos. I will select my Azure repo. I will select the starter pipeline, and I will save it. On the pipeline, I will go to edit. I will open the project in new tab also. I will delete all these lines. Okay, so trigger would be for main branch. If any change happens on the main branch, it will trigger the pipeline. It will be using the Ubuntu image, and steps, we will create our steps. So the first step would be, I will search here Azure CLI. I will go to Azure CLI. Azure Resource Manager connection. This is our service connection. Script type, I will select shell. Script location, inline script, and here I will give three commands. First command will actually build the image, and it will tag it, and I will give the second command which will log into container registry, and the third command which will actually push the image to the container registry. And I will click here on add. So it will add all the comments here on the YAML file. So it will first command will build the image. This is my Azure container registry name, and this is the container registry server of the Azure, and this will be the image name, colon tag, and 2048 game. This is the folder of the code on the Git repo. If I go to Git repo, so this is the folder in which I'm having my code. So this is the actually folder name, and this command will log into ACR, and through this command it will push the image to the ACR, and this is the image name. So we have to give the next step. So in the next step, I will only give this command, which will only open the uh, app-deploy YAML, which is the manifest file. If I go to repo, so this is the folder in which I am having the app-deploy.yaml file. So it will only open the YAML file, which is the manifest file for the Kubernetes. And this is the folder name in which we are having the YAML file, this folder name. We have to now give the next step. So for that, I will search here kubectl, and I will select the kubectl. Service connection type, I will select Azure Resource Manager. I will select my service connection. I will select my resource group in the drop down. I will select my AKS cluster. Namespace, I will give default, and command, I will select apply. Use configuration, I will select here file path, and in the file path I will give the folder name in which we are having the Kubernetes manifest file. So this is the folder name, this folder. It will deploy all the YAML files present in this folder. Type of secret, I will select Docker registry. Container registry type, I will select Azure Container Registry. I will select my service connection. I will select my registry from the drop down. I will untick this option, force update secret, and I will click on add. So it has added the configuration lines in the YAML file, and this step will actually deploy the resources in the Kubernetes cluster. I will save it, and I will go ahead and run my pipeline manually. Main branch, click on run. Okay, so run succeeded. If I go to my job, so in this step it built the image, Docker image, and it pushed it to the Azure Container Registry. And in this image, it actually deployed the pods on the AKS cluster through the image which we had pushed to the ACR. and this is the checkout step. If in the Kubernetes step in the log, I will search the load balance. So for the service, this is the external IP address. I will copy this IP address and I will browse it on the new tab. So here my application is running successfully. This is actually 2048 game. I will go to repos and in my repository I will do some change on the readme file to test the trigger on the pipeline. Commit main branch, commit. I will go to pipelines, runs, and you can see here it has automatically triggered the pipeline. I haven't uh, clicked on the run on the pipeline. Okay, so my pipeline run completed. If I go to job, so these are the logs for all these steps. In this step it will only show the manifest file. So this is the external IP. I will do the refresh. So my application is running fine. By this way you can create the Azure repo and the Azure pipeline to deploy the resources on the AKS cluster. Any change on the Azure repo, any commit on the Azure repo will trigger the pipeline and resources will be deployed automatically on the AKS cluster. Hope you find this video helpful. To practice this project, just go to my repository and fork it and delete the Azure pipeline YAML file and you can practice this complete project. A lot of effort went behind this video, so do subscribe to my channel to encourage my work. Like the video, share it with the friends and spread the knowledge. I look forward you to join me in the next video. Thank you.